Hello and welcome to Tom Talk Shop. I'm doing a little supplementary video today where I'm going to be taking rough material like this, gluing it up into panels like this, and with the minimal number of steps with hand tools, bringing it to the final form for making into raised panels. I'm not going to trot over that ground again. We've covered it quite a few times. This particular method I use when I'm making smaller panels or when I'm making a big pile of them. In particular, I've got 14 to make for the particular bench we're working on right now, and Sukey will put the link to that video series that we're still working on in the card. If you like this content, please like, subscribe, and comment, and please leave us comments down below. It helps us out a lot, and we always can use more ideas for videos. So thank you very much. Let's get started. I've got my rough board here, and the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to plane the edges off. I run these through the planer a little bit because, one, I wanted to get all the garbage off of them. They were quite filthy, and so I'd rather beat up my cheap Snipe Master plane than beat up my hand tools. But this board is about an inch already still, so that's fine. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to clean up my edges just roughly. Not going for perfection here, just to get them clean and sort of straight. Enough so I can see what I'm doing. Flip it over, do the other side. Looks right. And I'm just using a wooden coffin plane for this. It's kind of halfway between a scrub and a smoother. Anyway, just makes quick work of the grubby wood. And I have this plane set kind of lightly so that I'm getting the board pretty straight without taking a bunch off. We're not looking for jointing perfection just yet. Okay. Now that I got those two sides clean and I can tell which direction the board goes, my next step is I'm going to clean one side off to make it my reference face, which will be this face is what I'm going to do, because it's the grain up face. So all I'm going to do with that, all I'm going to do with this guy is I'm just going to just take my jack plane and get it flattened out. My power planer does not do a good job. And it's really, I don't use it for finish work. I just use it to get the board sort of clean and get stuff close. Plus, it always leaves a lot of snipe, and I'm going to take that out real quick. Okay, there we go. And I've got a little bit of a crown. I'd probably like to go get that out of it real quick. It's not a whole lot at this point, but it is a little bit. Take a little more aggressive pass here. I'm actually not worried about getting rid of every little saw mark on these boards either. This is going to be a no-seam side of the board when I'm done with it. So, I mainly am just going for the board to be pretty flat. There we go. That's close, and I'll just give it a quick once over with this guy. Again, we're not going for machine flat here. Just close enough.
Which plane are you using here?
Smoothing. Okay, now I've established the direction of planing, which in this case I'm going to mark it in two places because this board's getting cut in half. Now, when I have a reference face marked, I always put the what used to be a valuable sign, now it's the micro peso. I put a dollar sign there, and that tells me that that's my reference face. In this case, it's the back. So what I'm going to do now is I need this guy. All right, that's about right. I'm just going to cut this guy into two 16-inch pieces while cutting around the knot in the middle. And then I'll get ready to lay it up for glue up. Okay, I have them together right now, and right now I've still got the two reference faces up. I'm going to flip them over here in a minute. Notice I've got both my grains going the same direction. Some people say, well, you want to alternate your grains going like this. I'm not going to really worry about that because then I lose my reference faces. Anyway, I've done it this way an awful lot. I've never had any issue. On a table, you might be more particular, but so what I'm going to do here is I've got both these going the same way. So I'm going to flip them at the same time and keep them going in the same direction. You'll notice this face isn't near as pretty, and that's fine. Now I'm going to line up one end there, and I'm going to put in my docking marks like you normally do. And when you're working from the reference face on the back, this is the face that sits flat on the clamps. So you always want to check your square off that. It's more important to be square this way off your reference face than it is to be straight. You can have minor gaps going in those ways, and those will press out. But if you have slop going in here, that's going to give you a whole lot more grief. So I'm going to take the first piece over to the vise, and I'm going to quickly clean it up. Okay, I've got my reference face out because the grain planes this way. And I'm going to just take a few light passes. This one's almost straight, but not quite with my jack plane. Though my jack plane does not get things real square because the blade is pretty chamfered. So, yeah, not real square. And if I was doing a longer piece, I'd be doing this with my joiner, but you can do it with short planes. I started out just using that wood plane over there. That was all I had, and I did an awful lot of these that way for many years. But this works good too because this one is set up quite square. All right. So what's most important in this method in particular is you just get your reference side, square to your reference side. Now I'm going to take this guy and I'm going to drop it back in here and check my gap, which is actually pretty tight. But when you're going to plane, you're going to tend to be a little bit high in the middle, at least I always do. I'm going to do the same thing with this one. Now, I'll check my reference. There we go. That actually looks really good. Okay, you can see I've got a pretty tight fit all along, but more importantly, I've got a good tight fit up and down this way. That's what matters. There's a little gap here, but that'll press out. As long as you can get good glue squeeze out, it'll squish together just a little bit. And with that, we're going to go over and take this thing over to the GlueUp station and get this particular panel glued up. And then I'm going to show you why I do things the way I do. Also, before I forget, none of these have been thicknessed. I'm just going by the thickness. This board is probably an inch thick right now. I don't thickness until I have glued the panel up, and which is my way of doing this. I don't thickness. I go back and I reflatten the reference surface once it pops out of the clamps and is dry, and then I come back and thickness the front face. So let's get this one in the clamp and get it glued up. Okay, so I've got my clamps here ready to go and everything's bit. Got my reference faces down on the pipes. My clamps may not be the straightest in the world anymore. They've been well used, but that's all right. This does not have to be perfect. So I just quickly apply a small bead of glue on this guy. Rub it together good, line my marks up, and get a soft bite. Now, go ahead and get that one a little tighter, and then bring this one up. On a small glue up like this, I just put a little downward pressure. It's going to bow up just a tiny bit, but we're mainly just concerned with keeping these flat. And we only want just enough pressure to get squeeze out. We don't want to have to put a tremendous amount of pressure on that guy. And we have some squish out at the bottom, and that's all that matters to us right now. So with that, we're all glued up and ready to let it sit for a couple of hours. And I'll pull another panel out of the pile for thicknessing. Okay. In the expedience of time, I just pulled another panel off the pile. There are a big pile of them we're making, and they're all the same, so we're just going to run with it. So, as you can see here, this is the reference side, you know, the micro peso mark, and then my grain direction. This thing isn't quite flat. It's got, they didn't quite match up. They matched up close, yeah, but it's a little high in the center. So I'm going to, pardon me, I'm going to flatten this out and flatten it both ways real quick, just, you know, government good. And then I will flip it over, and then I'm going to go ahead and thickness it just the other side in situ rather than doing it twice. So I'm just going to get this real quick. That's actually going to be good enough for our purposes. Yeah. There we go. While at it, I'm going to remark my grain, remark my reference, reapply the part number while I know what it is. Okay, now you can see this beautiful piece of material, and it's going to be getting cut down and edges put on it, so this stuff doesn't matter to our purposes. And somewhere around here I've got a marking gauge, so I'm going to mark my final depth, which is going to be 7/8 for this. Yes. The reason why I do it this way is sometimes if you're getting boards that are different thicknesses, rather than fighting with them and getting them all close like you would if you're doing machine work, I just get one side good, 4 or 5 boards maybe I'm gluing up, and then I just flatten them all at once. And you actually end up with a better panel that way also. But if you reference the back, this is going to be fun because I can't see exactly what I'm doing, but it'll be close. But if your reference side is good and you've done it by hand, if there's any booby traps in the wood, you already know about it. And this particular piece has one little booby trap right here, I see. So I'm going to give it a quick scrub. Okay, now that I'm out of breath, I've got that scrubbed. It's good for you to go that fast when you do what I usually do. So I've crisscrossed it twice, and I'm close, but I can still see my mark. I've got my jack with a chamfered blade, whatever you call it, set pretty deep. And now I'm going to go back over it, crisscross again. Just taking the big ridges out of it. we're not looking for absolute perfection here. Just get it close. And I'll run over it with a smoother, take out some of the low spots. And there we do. We have 1 7/8 inch thick panel done. So pretty streamlined methodology there. You don't, if you were using it in certain joiner, you might be a little bit more particular. We're just making raised panels out of these, so I'm not real particular. If I'm within a 30 seconds, I'm real happy about thickness. So there you have it. And of course, I'm sure a lot of you are going to look at this wood and say, boy, that's some ugly wood. Yes, it is. This is all getting painted anyway. And this is for our own house anyway. So I'm not being particular at all. It's getting painted. In the end, it'll be just fine. Nobody will ever see all that or any of this roughness anyway. And it'll be masquerading as something that's 200 years old. So it'll fill the bill right away.